everyone, and welcome to State of the Game for September 29th, 2016. We have new microphones.
Yeah, I'm Frederick. I work with the guns and the gear sets and the weapon mods and a lot of the numbers behind the scenes.
What is happening with what we're calling week 2 now, which starts today? So we're updating the PTS with a bunch of changes. If you haven't seen it already, we actually published the patch notes on the forums.
Those are up now, right?
Yeah, they're out now. They were published about 30 minutes ago. The most important thing, and a lot of people have been asking about that, we're wiping everything first. So all the characters that you worked on the PTS, I'm not talking about live here, so no panic, on the PTS, all the characters that you worked on, the fresh level 30 that you went through the world tier progression and everything, we're erasing all of that. Yes. The reason why we're doing that is because now we're actually going to transfer your characters from the live game to the PTS. So you're going to get all your characters from the 1.3 version that you can play on the live servers. You're going to get everything transferred to the PTS. So what are we changing with PTS week 2?
That's cool.
Right. So that sounds small, but that's actually pretty good.
I think that's really good.
Yeah, it makes them usable, their damage component. They've been used as status effects or for flushing out enemies purely at endgame. And now they're relevant as part of your damage rotation.
The next one, and that's I think one that's going to make everybody very happy, we are finally nerfing the shotgunners. The NPC shotgunners.
The NPC shotgunners, all right.
Yes, we are nerfing them.
Too damn high.
So what are we nerfing? We are nerfing their damage fall-off and their accuracy that are being slightly reduced. So the idea is that they're going to have a bit less range and they're going to be less precise when they're shooting at you. We added in week 1, we actually added underground checkpoints. We are removing them. We're removing them because it's not working. That's something we wanted to try. But the problem was that when you would die, you would respawn directly at the entrance of the room you were in, which means most of the time you would respawn directly in the middle of the fight. That's definitely something that we will bring back when we have a better implementation, but the quick fix we wanted to put for 1.4 is not working, so we're removing it. So no checkpoints for underground, so we're back to how it was before. Other change that is, it's kind of interesting, player health will now progressively regenerate to full when you're out of combat.
Right.
So not the free segments anymore. It's actually going to...
Yeah, basically it made things like using med packs and first aid mandatory, but outside of combat, which is really uninteresting. Yeah. And so when you're out of combat, you just get to reset to full again. It makes the game a lot smoother.
Armor damage mitigation cap changed from 60% to 70%.
It was a test we did. I think you'll find it really difficult to reach the cap. But
it's pretty hard to reach already.
Yeah, but you should be able to keep stacking that armor because now you're making a trade-off for it. So it's okay to have the cap that high. You're not going to reach it without the sacrifices that it should have.
So what's that, around 13,000?
I can't remember that conversion at tier 4.
It's 11,565.
Yeah, because again, and you bring a good point, which is at tier 4, because the damage mitigation result changes depending on the world tier you're in. So it does not require the same amount of armor depending on which world tier.
Yeah, so you can go down and help your friend on the lower tier, and you're going to see the effects of your armor, which otherwise would just bump into that cap.
Another thing that was a bit too OP in a way, the health on kill bonus on gear that is being reduced by 50%.
It's a bit easy. So the new kill times means that kill events happen much more frequently, and so health on kill became a lot more powerful, and therefore we have to scale the amount you can stack on each gear piece down. We were seeing some very hard to kill builds.
The unkillable builds with predatory and...
We're still gonna keep it there on the gear sets, but the rolled bonuses on loose high ends.
Okay, so I'm skipping some of it. I see a lot of people asking when is 1.4 coming out. We are not going to give you a date, guys. If you're here for a date, you're not going to get more of a date than what you had in the past, which is still, we are aiming for October, but based on all the feedback we're getting and all that, we'll see how that goes. Tactician's Authority, the 2-piece is now 10% skill haste, and the 3-piece is now 10% skill power.
Yeah, and skill haste changed as well, so that it's 10% means that it's 10% shorter between your skills, and it's a nice 2-piece for people to be able to dip into from other builds.
Lone Star 3 pieces is now 8% damage bonus for LMG and shotgun, so it's not a flat bonus, it's a percentage.
Because the flat bonus just simply doesn't scale with the world tiers, whereas a percentage does.
Would this also work better across different weapons within that weapon type as well?
No, so firearms, this just literally increases the base damage by a certain percentage.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, before
cool.
crits or whatever.
And if people are wondering, 8%, this is basically equivalent to the bonus you would get at level 30 with the flat bonus we were providing, right?
It's somewhere in that region, depending on which world tier
Okay.
you're comparing to.
Yeah, of course, but no.
Yeah.
So with 31, 32,
level 30.
33, the bonus is going to be equivalent to what you were getting. with
We'll see
30.
as well, based on the next week's feedback, if
Yeah.
it's over or underpowered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are asking about SMGs. We're going to get to that, guys. Predator's Mark. So 2-piece is now 10% reload speed, which is nice. 3-piece it's the same. It's 8% damage bonus on assault rifle and SMG.
But it's SMG and not pistol damage.
So what used to be
you're
assault
right.
rifle pistol?
Yeah,
What was it,
you're right.
800, 700, I think?
When the set was implemented, giving out SMG damage would have been really toxic because we had a strong SMG meta. But now, hopefully, everything's balanced enough so that that's a fun set to have.
So you could have a SMG primary, assault rifle secondary. Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
It synergizes with applying those Predator smarts.
Yeah, and also another change to Predator, which is with the 4-piece, because the bleed now is 50% of the total amount damage.
Right, so you were, when played correctly, like as in applying the bleed and then leaving that target to bleed, that damage multiplication was just a little bit too high for the new meta. Normally you tend to overwrite the bleed when you shoot another 10 bullets in, so you wouldn't see how really powerful that was, but in some edge cases it turned out really, really powerful.
So I mean, the application of this, people will still notice the bleed being really powerful, right?
Yeah.
Because that whole 100%, you'd probably only often get 50% of it.
We'll see
Anyway,
how it works out. Predator was quickly becoming quite popular.
Really popular.
What was it? Were you Reclaimer?
Reclaimer, yeah. So,
yes. So we are bringing it back.
So Reclaimer does the same thing, but it follows the rules of the game. It triggers your consumable cooldowns, and it follows the rules of them, which means that it's a remote control for people's cooldowns, and it means that you as a group won't run out, but it doesn't allow you to stack a bunch of silly stuff that shouldn't be able to stack and chain it with multiple Reclaimers in a group and all of those things that used to sort of break that experience.
Cool.
So it's still going to work pretty
Looking
much
forward
the
to seeing.
same, but just the way it should have worked to begin
Sure,
with.
if you will.
In a way.
And I guess we'll see when.
I mean,
that'd be cool.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then the big one, and I've seen a lot of people were talking about it in the chat.
What is the Banshee?
Blind is gone.
Awesome.
Blind is dead. Long live Banshee.
So we figured that we have a meta now where maybe we have 10, 13, whatever functioning good gear sets instead of a few. Yeah. And this is the time where we could look at one and make it specialized. And Blind really wasn't working. It was dropping grenades where on the one place where you knew that someone had already died, etc. So we couldn't make it very good or very interesting. So we're trying out this Dark Zone focused gear set. I think some people will find it interesting, others will ignore it, and that's fine.
That's cool.
There's other builds for them.
Yeah.
And people are asking about the Blind rifle.
Yeah.
And we're not doing new content in this patch, but there's certainly that rifle is coming out at some point. But since it's synergized with the old Blind set, we have to rework it some, make it interesting.
Figure out where it kind of fits in that whole thing. The idea of having a weapon that works in
absolutely
as a catalyst to make the set even better.
I'd like that.
That's cool, but not right now.
So just one thing for those of you who actually didn't read the patch notes and are like, what the fuck are they talking about? What's Banshee? So Banshee. So again, it's replacing Blind, which means that when you're going to log in, all the Blind pieces you had are actually going to turn into Banshee pieces. So we're not removing your Blind pieces, we're just replacing them by Banshee. So the bonus of Banshee, 2 pieces plus 20% Dark Zone currency gained.
Right, and that I get a lot of questions why that's good. There's nothing to buy for the Dark Zone currency, but there is. You're going to be able to buy sealed caches for it. There's going to be other stock at the vendors, etc.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a good farming currency.
It's going to be good. 3 pieces plus 10% damage to target out of cover.
Right, this is the same bonus as on LMGs. We see that it's a very useful stat in the Dark Zone.
Yeah, in PvP because people don't really use.
But also in the
cover
Dark
as
Zone,
much
you have a lot of patrols and a lot of non-fixed combat situations, so you have a lot more moving targets.
I think it's cool. It would be interesting to see if it forces players to be more tactical with their use of cover, which is still something that, in honesty, we've been kind of yet to see in that PvP. But it'll be interesting.
And then the 4-piece bonus, so that's where it gets interesting. So for the first time, we actually we bring a gear set that has changing bonus depending on situation.
And the first one that relies on the rogue mechanic.
And it relies on the rogue mechanic. So the 4-piece bonus, while rogue, when you're rogue, all ammo is completely refilled every 30 seconds.
Because you can't run to the stashes and the safe houses and replenish.
Exactly. Yeah. And damage taken from non-rogue players is reduced by 10%.
Right. So it's not granting them more direct power. It's making manhunts and last stands something that can happen.
And then while not rogue, so as we said, it's changing depending on if you're rogue or not rogue. And when you're not rogue, so the first bonus, so let's say damage to rogue player is increased by 10%.
Actually,
I go with this one and then I'll explain the other one. So damage to rogue players is increased by 10% when you're actually not rogue, which can either negate the damage mitigation that they get from Banshee, or otherwise if they don't have Banshee.
Or just turns you into a rogue hunter.
Yeah, you can be a rogue hunter. And then there's a second bonus, so the reason why I'm talking about this one second, movement speed is increased by 20%. This is going to be on the PTS, but just so you guys know, we're going to change this bonus because for technical reasons and performance reasons, this is not something we can do.
Yeah, the movement speed didn't work in some parts of the Dark Zone.
So you can play with it in the PTS, but know that the movement speed is going to go and we're going to replace it with something else. What? Tell us. Tell us what you'd like to see.
Give us feedback.
You have, I don't know if it's you, but updated the DPS calculation formula, kind of.
Yeah, there's another iteration going on the PTS today. It's more similar to what's on live, but you can't jack up your DPS by stacking accuracy, so it counts all headshots. It's ideal DPS, as if everything you hit was a headshot. That I think it's better, but it's not super great because sometimes it encourages people that aren't so versed in the DPS to stack more headshot damage than maybe other stats. So we're going to have another look at it, but it's better than what it used to be.
Hey guys, I'm just going to pause the video very quickly here. Some of you might have heard that I was actually working with the developers to help revise the DPS calculation, and that is true. However, this is not the version that I contributed to. Another version of the calculation will go live next week. This is not the one that I was sort of working with. So I'll talk about that a little bit more later on, but I wanted to clarify that really clearly for now because I'm getting a lot of questions about it already.
Weapon recalibration. When you recalibrate a weapon now, you will actually have 3 additional choices of weapon talents. So instead of having 3 weapon talents plus the one you initially had, you will have 6 weapon talents plus the one you initially had.
So it'll be way easier to
pick from in the recalibration.
So the idea is that you should be able eventually, hopefully you should get the talent you're looking for before running out of choice. So yeah, that's a good one.
Yep.
Now changes to weapons.
Right.
So weapon damages.
The overarching changes, as we saw in the first week of PTS, LMG meta growing strong. So LMGs have been brought down partially through reducing their bonus, the damage to target out of cover, and partially by adjusting some of the individual weapons. SMGs have been resurrected into the meta, hopefully. They're not reaching exactly the same amount of critical strike damage as they do on live, but they have had their damage brought back up a little bit.
That's cool.
We want to not have them as super spiky as they were on live, but still have them definitely competitive. So please try it out, make some crit builds, see how it works out.
Nice. And you do have some changes for hip fire coming as well.
Right. So there was a lot of, when we rolled all of the accuracy stats into one, they gave a lot of hip fire accuracy. So basically your hip firing became really dominant, and we saw a lot of that in the Dark Zone, but also when farming PvE, and so accuracy no longer affects hip fire because each weapon has an ideal tweak for how it behaves in hip fire built into it, and I don't want to get to that point where you're hip firing laser guns. I am keeping an eye on the M1A, don't worry guys.
Ferocious and responsive both get their damage bonus reduced to 10% from 15%. So that's something like we've tried to actually have fixed bonus and not ranging bonuses anymore. So a lot of them we actually went with the highest value you could get. With these, we're actually going to lower it a bit.
That's good though. It removes that RNG from it.
The goal with all of these talents is to make sure that when something drops, all of the talents that are on there can be interesting in some context, rather than you only looking for those like 3, brutal, deadly, fierce, trinity. And so sometimes we have to reduce numbers to make sure that they're interesting, all of them choices. And that actually means that more gear that you get is useful. And it's really important to remember that.
Absolutely.
Nice.
And then the other one, in terms of gear talents, Reckless, the bonus damage is reduced from 15% to 8%.
15% is an enormous DPS increase in the current meta, and it became a must pick, even though you were dying faster. So it's contributing to...
And Savage, going from 10% to 7% damage bonus.
10% critical strike is a lot in...
Exactly.
The chance, Skills, all right. Skills, so very quickly, first aid. So we said with the first week of PTS, we said Defibrillator would actually revive players from dead state instead of just down state. We're removing that. It's not working.
It's too much.
It's too much. It's something we wanted to try. It was fun, but and a lot of you actually said it, it's just way too OP, it's just way too uncontrollable.
Trivialized a lot of encounters and led to death trains. Yeah,
exactly. Ballistic Shield, so first, disclaimer, we know there are bugs with Ballistic Shield, we're working on them, okay? So we're actually fixing some of them, and it's going to be a constant work in progress. But in terms of balancing, so we're actually boosting the shield quite a bit. Because we are boosting the health of the shield, the base health of the shield by 67%, which is already big.
And I can tell you that even though that's not on the current PTS, we're doing a lot of work when it comes to holding threat and how the way the threat works in the game and making sure that the shield works as you'd expect it in a group. So stick around for that.
So there's going to be a lot of changes on that. That's going to be a week 3 more kind of thing. But right now the first pass is we are boosting the ballistic shield, and then hopefully in the following PTS we will have good changes to threat mechanics. So we know that a lot of you guys will be asking for threat mechanics. It's coming. So ballistic shield, so base health boosted by 67%, and also we reduced the damage taken by the shield from NPCs by 50%. Support station, it's interesting when playing solo. If you are downed while your station is actually active, you will be able to revive yourself. And then big change for signature skills. So we are implementing what we called, even though that's not a very accurate name, a shared cooldown mechanic. So the idea is that now if I play in a group and I trigger Tactical Link, and Tactical Link lasts for 12 seconds, when this link actually runs out, for 30 seconds, my teammates and I will actually be immune to another effect of Tactical Link. So if Frederick triggers it after mine runs out, it's not going to have any effect.
Okay, but you could still trigger it.
You could still trigger it.
So communication is going to be important.
You can still trigger it, but it's not going to have any effect. But if it triggers another signature skill that is not the one I just triggered, but is not Tactical Link, then it's going to work. In the first week, you could get gear sets directly from World Tier 1. We are removing gear sets from World Tier 1 in the World Tier system. So what that means is that when you're fresh level 30 and you go to the World Tier system, when you're in World Tier 1, you will only get high-end items.
Yeah, because you're coming from purples and blues, and then the new thing is the high ends, and then at World Tier 2, then the new things is gear sets, right? So
exactly.
I like that.
So that's the idea of bringing you a bit more gradually towards the real World Tier 4 endgame. We changed the drops on Dark Zone named NPCs. That was a feedback we had a lot. I mean, the Dark Zone was a bit crazy in terms of drops. We are changing it a bit. What we're doing is just basically the Dark Zone named NPCs used to drop one piece of high-end or gear set, one extra piece of gear set, and one chance for a gear mod. Now you're going to have one piece of high-end or gear set and one guaranteed mod. A cool addition, the vendors will now actually sell sealed caches for currencies. So that's a cool thing. So now you will be able to actually spend all the money you're getting. So no matter if it's normal currency, if it's Dark Zone funds, if it's Phoenix credits, all these currencies, you will actually have the option to spend it to buy sealed caches that will give you items.
Nice. Nice to have a currency sync.
There's going to be a way to actually, as you farm, you're going to get more currency. You can actually spend it for something now.
Named weapon changes they're asking about.
Yeah.
I can
talk about it. It's not in week 2.
It's not in week 2, but we're basically removing the level restriction on named weapons. They're going to be available in all world tiers.
Yeah.
So
exactly. People have been asking about that scaling.
Yep.
Yes, you will be able to get a 229 Midas Yes, we'll be able to get a 229 Caduceus, although it might look a little bit different.
The Caduceus might need some adjustment, but the Hungry Hog is actually really fun at 229.
I've always rated Meticulous on LMGs. I think it's a nice...
What else? So then there's a bunch of bug fixing with it. The 4-piece talent final measure that will not diffuse the APC mortar shells.
But on the other hand, it's on 15 seconds.
Yeah. But
15 seconds for all of them or just for the APC?
No, just it's a 15-second cooldown, which is the timer for mortar bombardments is like 9 seconds. You'll be able to catch every other one, but there's also other grenades that you might want to catch in the between. 4 seconds was just a little bit strong once you add the ability to snatch mortars. Yeah. So
smart cover is not going to be destroyed by enemy grenades anymore.
What's that experience going to be like when I log in 1.4 the first time? What's my gear going to look like? All of those sorts of things. Well, for one, you'll be able to see it for the people on the PTS today.
Be able to try
that conversion is happening when people's characters come over. But just at a basic level, let's go through these points. And thanks, Quentin, for giving me those details. But Quentin says the majority of balancing changes affecting gear will be retroactive. All right, so that's cool. And he says also, for example, if you had a max roll stamina on your chest or whatever stat you have, you will still have the new max roll for stamina. So it's not going to be re-rolled randomly.
No, it
will match the relative success of that roll in 1.3, and then it'll come over in 1.4.
But the amounts have shifted.
Exactly.
Yep.
So the changes to the core attributes across gear score will be retroactive. Also, guaranteed base stats. So those will be added in to your new gear, as long as it's over gear score 182.
Or 182 and over, rather.
Exactly. And there's been changes on a lot of the min-max values that a bonus can roll on gear, which is part of what we talked about before. But in general, your gear should look very similar in terms of its successful rolls in 1.4. But to be a little bit more accurate on some of the smaller changes, some weapon talents have been removed from the game. Restored is gone. Stable will only roll on items less than level 30. So that's still something that you'll have in the leveling game, but not post 30.
Yeah.
And steady is gone. All right.
Steady, stable. Which one?
Steady is gone. Stable's only rolling below level 30. Yep. Performance mod slots. Okay, here's the thing. So performance on your 1.3 gear, you won't have performance mod slots.
No. But they'll keep their skill bonuses.
You still have your skill bonuses. Adjusted for 1.4 values. But you will only find performance mod slots on gear dropped in 1.4.
Yeah, right. Which you should get pretty fast.
Again, not a, you won't be underpowered, but yes, you will find those new things pretty quickly. Weapon mods completely re-rolled.
Yeah.
So again, we've kind of said before, make sure you stock up on those if you want to, have the best chance of getting more of them. Performance mods re-rolled as well. In addition to that, scavenging has been removed completely, like we said. But here's what will happen if you have scavenging on any of your pieces of equipment. On your mask, it'll be replaced by bleed resistance. On knee pads and purple gear mods, it'll be replaced by threat reduction. And on knee pads, perceptive talent. Hang on, let me just read what Quentin wrote. Perceptive talent on knee pad will not roll on post 1.4 knee pads. If you have it on existing knee pads, it will just increase your gold find bonus.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Will burst fire weapons get buffed?
Yes.
Yes. Cool. All right. Done.